it's not that it's not a good fight. It's not that Lamont Roach isn't a good fighter. It's that Gervonta Davis is literally a minus 1,600 favorite against Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach is a plus 1,000 here. And Tank Davis is now 30 years old, and this just feels like a waste of time. We've got Gervonta Tank Davis, 30 wins and 0 losses with 28 knockouts. Think about that, 28 knockouts out of 30 fights, defending his WBA lightweight title against Lamont Roach. 25 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Lamont Roach is still a WBA 130-pound champion. He earned that against Hector Luis Garcia, and he's defended that one successfully in a 8th round TKO over Fergal McCrory. And for the second time in like the last, 4 Gervonta Davis fights, he's going to be fighting a guy coming up from 130 to fight him at 135. He did the same thing with Hector Garcia, the same Garcia that Lamont Roach beat to earn that 130-pound WBA title. Gervonta Davis had Hector Garcia come up and fight him. Ended up being a pretty entertaining fight. Hector Garcia was very game. He hit Gervonta Davis a lot, but Gervonta Davis either fractured a part of his face, ended up stopping him in the 9th round. And here we have Lamont Roach coming up from 130 to fight one of the most fearsome, explosive punchers in all of boxing at 135. I think that that's why we've got the odds that we have here. Like, nobody thinks that Lamont Roach is going to beat Gervonta Davis. Not to say that it's not in any way possible. I mean, this is boxing. Anything technically can happen. But look, when you're talking about a champion, somebody who's a belt holder being a plus 1,000 underdog, you would think, okay, let's put some money, maybe some money on Lamont Roach Jr. just in case he does the unthinkable. But Gervonta Davis is so damn good. Even with those odds, I don't feel compelled to like sprinkle some. I still might do it, but I'm saying these odds are the way that they are for a reason. And again, Lamont Roach, he's not a bad fighter. It's just that Gervonta Davis is like a top 10 pound for pound talent in the sport. And really the only thing keeping him out of like everybody's top 5 is that he hasn't fought the best fighters in and around the division. Yes, he does have some impressive wins against some big names, but there's often like some like weight like shenanigans. Like when he beat Leo Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz was up a division, like from where, or up 2 divisions from where he was at his best, but up 1 division from where he was having like the classics against Carl Frampton. When he fought Gamboa was old and he was up a division, up really 2 divisions. I thought that the Mario Barrios fight was a impressive win. He went up to 140 to fight Mario Barrios. That was the last time Mario Barrios would fight at 140. So that, was he a little weight drain for that? But he did stop Mario Barrios. Very impressive win. Again, Gervonta Davis is one of the most talented fighters. He's proven that he's one of the best in the sport. Some people think that his most legit and impressive win is still the Jose Pedraza win. I will say that even with the weight shenanigans against Ryan Garcia, him stopping Ryan Garcia in the 7th round is still, to me, his most impressive feat. He's also beaten Isaac Cruz. That was legit. I mean, Isaac Cruz isn't necessarily a world beater, but he's a very high quality opponent. So look, it's very difficult to assess Gervonta Davis's resume because Ryan Garcia, there were some weight shenanigans. Hector Garcia went up a division. Rolly Romero really had no business being in the ring with Tank Davis, but he talked his way into, multiple big opportunities. Rolly Romero did. Tank Davis's latest win against Frank Martin, that was an impressive win against a top 10 lightweight who didn't have nearly the experience and, was really at the end of the day outmatched by Gervonta Davis. But that's the thing. Gervonta Davis is so good that he could look, if it was any other fighter who had this exact same resume, people would probably be praising the hell out of their accomplishments. But that just speaks to how highly we view Gervonta Davis as a talent, that beating a weight drained Ryan Garcia and a out of division Leo Santa Cruz, Hector Garcia, Yuriorkis Gamboa, and now Lamont Roach, that it just isn't enough. That's why nobody's getting excited about Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. It's because, yeah, Lamont Roach is good, but he's good and he probably should be fighting O'Shaquie Foster. Hell, Emmanuel Navarrete, Anthony Cacace, any of these guys, Joe Cordina, Conceição. He should be fighting the other best 130 guys, not going up a division and fighting Gervonta Davis. Like, And again, Gervonta Davis is now 30 years old. And you know, in Gervonta Davis's defense, he was trying to get a fight with Lomachenko, but then Lomachenko went back to Ukraine, basically said he wasn't going to fight again until further notice. So I don't even know if we're going to see Lomachenko in a ring again, but it was looking for a moment like that was going to be next. That was a matchup I would be super excited about. Even though Lomachenko is now in his mid 30s, I would still be excited, super excited to see what's going to happen. This fight should have happened like years ago. Like, how can you be Gervonta Davis passing through, 130, 135 and haven't locked horns with basically like a generational great in and around the divisions like Lomachenko? Like, sometimes in boxing, we just get these huge missed opportunities. Like, I felt like for the longest, Lomachenko versus Mikey Garcia had to happen. How did that not happen? It's just a big gap and unknown, unfortunately, for that era in those divisions. And, it was Devin Haney who fought Lomachenko, but we haven't seen Gervonta Davis against Lomachenko. We haven't seen him against Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. There are a multitude of guys that I would like to see Gervonta Davis fighting, but we're getting Lamont Roach, Hector Garcia. Frank Martin was a pretty good one. That was a pretty good opponent. But again, like, I look at Gervonta Davis like I really look at Canelo Alvarez. No, he doesn't have nearly the resume that Canelo has. So I don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm talking about as far as a talent in terms of knowing what we know about the talent of Gervonta Davis, who do we fans want to see him fight? We want to see him fight no less than a Lomachenko. Or if he wants to run it back with Ryan Garcia, do it in a fair way. I have questions of whether we're ever going to get that rematch, because I mean, what is Gervonta Davis going to go up and fight Ryan Garcia where Ryan Garcia is comfortable weight-wise? Like, I don't know who I would favor in that one. But yeah, Gervonta Davis, extraordinary talent. He's quick. He can box, great reflexes. Sometimes I think that he hits so damn hard and is so explosive and powerful that people kind of discount his boxing ability, his boxing IQ, his defense. He is a very good defensive fighter. I mean, if you rewatch him against Ryan Garcia, look at how those vicious left hooks are just zipping over Gervonta Davis's head. That requires extremely good reflexes, great quick twitch muscles, and being able to read your opponent's offense. And if there is a fighter whose offense you definitely want to be able to read, it's Ryan Garcia's, because he'll take your head off if you can't read his offense. But yeah, Gervonta Davis is an extraordinary talent. And look, I'll just keep it real. I don't think Lamont Roach beats him. I think that he gives him some trouble. I think that he, has good boxing moments. I think that he wins a few rounds. I mean, a lot of these opponents win a couple rounds against Gervonta Davis. What I've been really thinking about is, does this fight go the distance? And for most of the build up to, to me making this video, for me, I've been thinking that Lamont Roach goes the distance here. He's a crafty fighter. He's a, orthodox fighter. Gervonta Davis is southpaw. Lamont Roach is pretty short. He's about 5'7". He's about 1.5 inches taller than Gervonta Davis, but he's one of those fighters who is able to throw punches to the body. Like, he throws a nice right hand to the body. He jabs well to the body. I think like something like 30% of Lamont Roach's punches go to the body. So he's going to be targeting that. You've got to be very, very careful though when you're trying that against Gervonta Davis. So I think that he's going to frustrate Davis. I think Davis is going to be missing a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of tie-ups. I think he being Lamont Roach is going to move around the ring pretty damn well. And Gervonta Davis is just going to look like he's being outboxed in certain spots throughout these rounds. And all the pressure to perform well is on Gervonta Davis. Like, everybody pretty much thinks or / knows that Gervonta Davis is going to win the fight, but he's got to look good doing it. Like, again, he's got 28 knockouts out of his 30 wins. If Lamont Roach takes him the distance and Gervonta Davis wins a decision, people are going to be like, oh, what the hell was that, Tank? What was the point in that? And it's going to make Lamont Roach look good if he could just go the distance with Tank Davis. So the pressure's on Gervonta Davis, even though he's like the cash cow. He's the one who is able to do like all of these pay-per-view events. He's one of the biggest stars in boxing, which is one of the reasons why we're not seeing him against the best, because his team's attitude seems to be, well, we could do a pay-per-view against anybody. So why are we gonna take risks against the most dangerous guys when we could just stay on this gravy train fighting Frank Martin, Hector Garcia, and now Lamont Roach? And it's also Tank Davis, who has been one of the last holdouts in working with Turki Al-Sheikh. I don't like how that's developing. I think that Tank Davis is being pretty damn disrespectful in the way that he's addressing Turki Al-Sheikh. Not that he needs to be like kissing his butt or nothing. I'm just saying like Turki Al-Sheikh is like trying to get some of the best fights together, and Gervonta Davis is being very like dismissive and talking about how Turki Al-Sheikh doesn't know boxing and he needs to surround himself with boxing people. I don't know about you, but I'm looking at these fight cards that they're putting together for Riyadh season. I'm like, yeah, they're obviously boxing fans who are working these matchups out. There is no indication that somebody who doesn't know boxing and doesn't have deep knowledge of boxing and who the current players are and what their styles are not behind making these fights. Like, there is obviously a lot of thought and care and boxing fanship as much as business that's going into making these Riyadh season fight cards. So I would like at some point for Gervonta Davis to come around and be willing to work with Turki Al-Sheikh. We know that Canelo Alvarez, first, it didn't start off well between him and Turki Al-Sheikh, and now we see that he's got what, a 3-4 fight contract with Riyadh season. I would like for Gervonta Davis, with TGB Promotions, Gervonta Tank Davis Promotions, Al Heyman and company to be willing to work with Turki on some of these future fights for Gervonta Davis. Because you know what? Gervonta Davis sometimes acts like he doesn't care, but when you hear him in interviews, he does seem to care what the public thinks. He does seem to care about his legacy and fighting some of the best. And he also seems to care about not losing. Like the idea that Floyd Mayweather set him up to fail against Jose Pedraza several years ago, like in 2017, like Gervonta Davis seems to think that matching him up against somebody who's got a relatively decent shot at winning is somehow like a betrayal to Gervonta Davis. Like, what is the point in competitive sports if you don't have a real chance at losing? So that part is kind of puzzling. But then you get other interviews where Gervonta Davis sounds like he wants to fight some of the best fighters in the sport. So again, I just hope that he's willing to come around and that he sees that he's on borrowed time here. I mean, he himself is saying that he doesn't want to fight too much longer. He said like another couple fights and he's out. We'll see about that, but he is 30 years old, so he's only going to be at his prime for like another couple of years, right? Like, I don't expect him to be at his absolute best at 36 and 37 in the way that Floyd Mayweather and Terrence Crawford have been. And you could argue that they are not at their best or were not at their best at 36, 37, but like, you know, Floyd did beat Canelo at what, 36? And he fought Pacquiao at what, 37, 38? He fought Maidana twice at 37 years old. So yeah, not every superstar is going to age like Floyd Mayweather. He's the exception, not the rule. So yeah, right now we're getting into that part where it's like, hey, do you want to continue to build your legacy, or do you want to keep on fighting, you know, B-level opponents? I'm not going to say he's fighting C-level guys. He's fighting B++ level guys. Or do you want to really make these last couple fights or couple years, whatever you've got left, you know, in terms of your appetite to want to even fight? Are you going to make these count after this Lamont Roach fight? And again, in fairness, he was trying to get a fight with Lomachenko. I hope Lomachenko comes back, and I hope they eventually make Gervonta Davis versus Lomachenko. I would love to see that. But in terms of this fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, I'm more excited about two of the undercard fights. I want to see, you know, Jose Valenzuela defending his belt against Gary Antoine Russell, who is coming off of that loss, that split decision loss against Alberto Puello, one of the 140-pound belt holders. I think he's the WBC 140-pound champ right now, or at least like he's whatever I think they named Devin Haney like the champion in recess of the 140-pound WBC belt, and Alberto Puello is kind of the active WBC 140-pound champ right now. So Gary Antoine Russell lost to him, and now he's going to be fighting Jose Valenzuela, and Alberto Puello, who just beat Gary Antoine Russell, is going to be defending his title again, this time against Sandor Martin. And Puello, by the way, is a two-time champ. He was a champ, and then he got suspended for PEDs, dropped that belt, and then he came back and eventually became WBC 140-pound champ. So yeah, those two undercard fights, Puello versus Sandor Martin, stylistically, it might not be a pretty fight. I can't say that I'm more excited about Puello versus Martin than I am Tank Davis versus anybody. I'll be honest there. But with Rayo Valenzuela versus Gary Antoine Russell, to me, that's a more intriguing matchup by far than Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach. Again, I think that this Gervonta Davis being a minus 1,600 favorite, I think that that's justifiable. But you know what? I think that Lamont Roach is going to go very late in this fight, but I don't think he's going to fully go the distance. I think that Gervonta Davis is going to start finding him more frequently. I think Gervonta Davis is also going to go to Lamont Roach's body. I think they're going to be attacking each other's body for much of this fight, but I think that Gervonta Davis is going to really start breaking him down by like the 5th through 7th round, and I think he's going to get a stoppage somewhere between rounds 9 and 11. So I think it's going to be a late stoppage. I think this is going to go several rounds, but I think that Gervonta Davis is going to break down and eventually stop. Maybe not knockout, maybe TKO, but I don't know. Like if you're really on the ropes or hurting against Gervonta Davis, he could get you out of there pretty damn quickly. So yeah, I think he's gonna stop Lamont Roach. I don't know how spectacular the fashion is gonna be, but I think that this is gonna be at least for the first few rounds, I think Lamont Roach is gonna look pretty good. And I think, I don't know, just when I want to say that it's going to do well for his career to go a few rounds with Gervonta Davis, I just think about how nothing's gone right in Hector Garcia's career since getting obliterated by Tank Davis. Like a lot of people who lose to Tank Davis, they take a beating and they really get knocked out pretty badly. Like we'll see what Frank Martin is able to do going forward, but not all, hey, you did well but lost types of losses are equal. Sometimes it's really not good for your career, and this might be one of those cases. I hope for Lamont Roach's sake it's not the case, and I hope that he could go back to 130 and defend his title again and look pretty good doing it. But I don't know, man, you're fighting Tank Davis. Like a lot of things could go wrong. So I'm going to take Gervonta Davis via late stoppage against Lamont Roach. In my excitometer 1 through 10, like I'm at a 4, 5 maybe on Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. At the most a 6, but even that is kind of pushing it. Again, it's not Lamont Roach's fault. He's just doing his thing. This was a big opportunity. I could get why he would take the fight. I mean, but you really got to have some balls to fight Gervonta Davis. Like that is not for the faint of heart. And again, I think that Gervonta Davis is going to get another stoppage win here. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach. I wish I could sound more excited about this fight. Hopefully I didn't sound too bored in this preview, but yeah, I'll hopefully do an undercard preview where there'll be a lot more, you know, boxing to talk and like a more competitive match to start wrapping our heads around when we talk Rayo Valenzuela versus Gary Antoine Russell. That's going to be a good one, or at least very interesting. I think someone's going to get hurt. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach and the undercard in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.